All right. I think we're up and running. Good deal. So, welcome to the Colonel and Kid podcast once again. Another morning show. I can't believe I'm actually running in the morning this time, but back to the normal routines, I guess. A lot less stuff to do now that elk hunting is over for the year. So I'm still hoping to get a podcast exclusively about this year's elk hunt. Hopefully Angela will sit down with me and I'll have my second guest of the show. But anyway, Colonel and the Kid podcast is now in session, and I'm calling this episode 10. And the title of this one is The Purple Martins. And to repeat, maybe some people are new to the podcast, but this podcast is the Colonel and Kid podcast, and I am the kid, and the Colonel is here in spirit. That's my maternal grandfather, Colonel Edwin P. Hagen Jr. And so this podcast is based on the memoir I wrote about my relationship with my grandfather. And it's the spine of the podcast, as I like to say. Everything builds off of the chapters that I go over. I do one chapter per podcast, and this one's the 10th one. I can't believe it's already number 10. And I'm looking ahead to number 11, and I don't have that stuff ready to go. So I got a lot of work ahead of me to get the number of chapter 11 out. And I don't even know what the title of that one is. I'll have to get that out, get working on that. So, excuse me, lots of work to do in the future on that side of stuff. But, so today is November 6th, I believe. No, Wednesday, November 5th, according to my, my phone. So, what we'll do, I think we're going to do today is, and maybe from now on, I think I'm going to read the chapter first, and then people who maybe that's all they're interested in, they can just bail out, don't have to listen to the rest of it. And then we'll go through the rest of the usual podcasting subsections, including the NFL update and NFL picks. And then we have baseball update. World Series had its game 7. So that was exciting. And we'll go over that. And then I have the verbal abuse section. I have a topic today. I could talk about that. What else do I have? I think talk about my other books and music update. Also, license to podcast, which I'll talk about a license plate, personalized plate that I saw the other day. And, then I have something very special. I'll have another reading, hopefully, depending on how my voice goes. It's a very coincident thing that happened, and I'll talk about that. But it was based on some papers I discovered. I kept like a miniature journal, just a few stories here and there when I was living in Texas, when I was working for Federal Highway Administration back in 2003, and have I found at least 3 stories in papers I came across going through stuff as I'm settling back into New Mexico. And one of the stories had a tie-in with some recent activity. And I'll read that little story, and from like over 22 years ago. And it's kind of, I like to think it's humorous, but maybe it's not. Maybe some people find it offensive and terrible. So you can be the judge. Anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and get to the chapter. Today's chapter from the Colonel and the Kid memoir from Greg Heitman. I don't know if I introduced myself. I'm Greg Heitman, Gregory L. Heitman, as my publishing moniker goes. So if you're looking for any of my books or any of my work, officially, it's Gregory L. Heitman. So, to the reading, Chapter 10, The Purple Martins. And as always, start with the quote to start the chapter. And this week's quote is, quote, "Birds of a feather flock together," end quote. and that's from William Turner, circa 1545. So that's quite a while ago. And unfortunately, I should have done a better job with this compilation of quotes that I use and put little description of who the person was, William Turner. I don't remember who he was. Probably some philosopher or professor, student, whatever he was, circa 1545. I mean, that's a long time ago. So the quote still stands up. Birds of a feather flock together. Just obviously, it's obvious. So to the chapter. 25 yards or so, just up the hill from Grandpa's back door, stood a tall pole. At least it was tall for a little boy looking up to the top of that pier with a birdhouse at its pinnacle. My perception, as that lad seen Grandpa enjoy his migrant martins, was there was joy and pride in his endeavors to accommodate those birds. Who doesn't enjoy seeing birds and watching bird behavior? And we have the first photo of the chapter. And I'll read the caption and give a little description of what's going on in the photo. Here you can see Grandpa's purple martin birdhouse, as I remember it. This photo has to be circa 1980, as there are no trees along the north side of the property line in the background. I'm not sure what's going on in the photo. It appears Grandpa and Grandma, along with Mom and Grady, are inspecting a young apple tree for the beginnings of a fruit crop. And I believe my dad was a photographer, so that's why he's not in the photo. And I don't know where I was. Who knows? Maybe I didn't make that trip over to see Grandma and Grandpa. But also note, you can see the TV antenna tower a little better in this photo to get a feel of how tall it was. I believe this tower also later doubled as a support for the ham radio antenna. I debated whether to use it in the garage chapter, but decided the birdhouse is perfectly shown here. So I'll describe the photo, and it's the back of my Grandma and Grandpa's house. Grandpa Old Timer and Betty Jean, that's their house there, and it's looking east, kind of northeast, I guess, from the angle of the photograph. But it's got the purple martin birdhouse, kind of really, framed on the left side of the photograph. It's not the primary centered object, but it really shows the birdhouse very well. And then the house further in the background, and then the valley below you can see, and then there's some trees. Trees are lining the little coulee or little stream that ran downhill towards Siston from the Coteau de Prairie on the hillside there. And the house, it's bright, it's not bright, but it's a reddish maroon color that matches the roof of the purple martin house. And it's pretty cool. The roof is kind of a really light colored, maybe almost white, and it kind of really complements the white pole and the rest of the paint job on the white birdhouse. So it's a red roof on the purple martin birdhouse, and it's a white roof on Grandma and Grandpa's house. So it's pretty interesting. And I like Grady's got a shirt on that's got the number 75 on it, and I don't know if I kind of wondered about that. It's a blue shirt, kind of like some stripes on the short sleeves, and the silver number 75 outlined in white, and then on his shoulders it's got white background. And I always thought that, I wonder if that was the number 75 because that's the year that the shirt was made. So they were just putting the year of the shirt, and that's like the athletic number. So that's my hypothesis behind the numbering of the shirt. But back to the chapter. I write this chapter in the last week of November, and parenthetically, I add here that I think this was November 2022, and we're already in 2025, so it's taken me a long time to get to this point to narrate this, but 3 years later, here we are. It has been an exceptionally warm fall here in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I still manage fresh water from my feathered friends with a bird bath, 5-gallon bucket, and 2 large dishes in my backyard. The migrating robins have been hanging around, gobbling up the crop of Russian olives in the neighborhood like I've never seen before. They'll be gone as soon as temperatures get back to normal, and need for food and water drives them further south. In the meantime, I am witness to an entertaining display of ornithological gymnastics It is fun. I'm sure I owe a debt to Grandpa for setting me on this path of appreciation of backyard birding. In this last week, as I write this, I had a pair of visiting birds, a species I've never seen in the wild before, evening grosbeaks. It was thrilling for me to identify a new type of bird at my backyard bird bath. It was a fleeting visit, and I hustled to try to get a photo with my iPhone through the patio door. I got a blurry photo and was a bit disappointed. However, a day or two later, on my usual walking route, I stumbled across a whole flock of evening grosbeaks feeding in junipers next to the walking trail I frequent. A flock of about 10 birds were gobbling up the purple berries. I was able to sneak fairly close and snap a much more satisfying photo with my phone. What a feeling! I couldn't wait to tell Angela, my significant other, and share the photo with her via text. And I have that photo here included in the chapter, and I'll read the caption, then describe it a little bit if I can. The evening grosbeaks I crossed paths with along the walking trail in my Santa Fe neighborhood in November 2020. I can't say I've ever spotted the species before and feel lucky to have captured them as they migrated through town, heading for warmer climes. So, now just to describe the photo and put maybe a clarification. Apparently, this is November 2020, which is 5 years ago, and I was thinking it was 2022, but man, time flies, and I feel bad it's taken me so long to get to this point. But anyway, this picture that I have here, you can kind of see it's really a gray, cloudy day and juniper tree, and these birds, they're two birds are flying, and they're pretty close. I don't know. I must have been very close to them. And they're the grosbeaks, and they're small robin, probably a robin-sized bird. And they have black wings with white patches on their wings, and the grosbeaks, because they have an exceptionally large beak compared to the rest of their head and body, and they're kind of just a brownish, greenish gray with a little, even a tinge of yellow in them. They're a striking bird. I like their coloring, and I think maybe that's why I was so even attracted to writing the story and putting them in this chapter. And there's two birds flying, and I think that there's three sitting in the juniper tree that I happened to catch feeding on the berries. And they almost look like cedar waxwings, I guess. That's how I would describe them if you notice a waxwing looks like, but they don't have a crest. But anyway, good picture. Glad I got that. Back to the chapter. You can trace the roots of my love for the outdoors and wildlife through Grandpa and his own journeys hunting and fishing in the glacial lakes region. There are several more chapters where I'll be documenting the adventures and exploits of Grandpa and his hunting partners, as well as my family's out in the wild. These sports and hunting anecdotes provide the bulk of my memories about Grandpa. More than that, these experiences shaped my life in ways that humbled me. I can't believe how lucky I've been to follow a path that led me to where I am today. It's the old cliche. If I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't change a thing. The life lesson here is role models. You have at least one role model. If you don't, you might struggle through life. How many times can I say I lucked out? Chance has a role in any situation, but I throw this out there. Grandpa used to say, the more you practice, the luckier you get. How did I practice an inherent relationship? Well, it's an interesting question. I will answer it this way. A relationship is a reciprocal affiliation. More on this later when the conversation turns to sports, but the mutual love of the avian species in our lives began early and took us a long way in our lives. How can I ever forget those purple martins Grandpa was so proud to attract to his backyard? The purple martins, dipping and diving through the air as they hunted bugs in the evening, were famous for their aerobatics. The birds' unmistakable swallowtail, displayed as they darted through the sky, is an indelible of an image as I could ever conjure. The songs the purple martin sang, a welcoming choir to Grandpa's backyard for any visitor to enjoy at no charge. To go back in time with my iPhone now, would the memories be as good as I recall them today? Not likely. Excuse me. And I have another picture here. I'll read the caption, then describe it. Check out Greg's Santa Fe backyard bird bath and watering hole where a sharp-shinned hawk stops for a drink of water in the mid-morning on April 10th in 2022. I spotted this hawk numerous times on my walks throughout the winter days as it hunted the doves in the neighborhood. I'm very thankful for the entertainment it has provided, and it's a small hawk, the sharp-shinned hawk. And I'm pretty sure it's sharp-shinned. It could be a Cooper's hawk. They're pretty small, probably about twice the size of a dove, and they have a lot of these Eurasian collared doves that are kind of invasive species in the whole country now. But they're a little bigger than the mourning doves, and they kind of chased out a lot of the mourning doves we see. But the Eurasian collared doves, they winter here. They stay here all year. They're here year round, and they make a lot of racket. And they're pretty big. They're okay. I mean, I don't mind them too much, but I think they provide pretty good meal for these hawks, and they chase them all over. But this hawk in this photo I have a big green 5-gallon bucket full of water, and it's perched on the rim of the bucket. I guess just getting a drink and taking a break from hunting, and it's in my backyard, and just it's pretty cool. I just enjoy seeing those, and they come zipping through the neighborhood. They're bigger, like I said, about twice the size of the doves, but it can be easily mistaken at first glance when you see them coming through the neighborhood, because it seems like they flap their wings a lot more than a normal hawk. They don't just glide and ride the wind and looking for prey. They'll be chugging through the neighborhood pretty good clip with wings flapping and doing their hunting. And I guess maybe I'll just add a little story here too, that one of the days about this time frame, I was walking through the neighborhood, and there was a lot of commotion in this. All of a sudden, these two doves flew really close by me, and one of them ran right into the garage door, a window of a garage door, and it broke its neck and was dead. And then I noticed that it was being chased by a hawk, and it was funny because the hawk, it landed on there was like a minivan parked out in front of the garage where this dove had crashed into the window and died. And the hawk tried to land on the minivan windshield, and it just got on the windshield and slid all the way down the windshield. And it caught itself before it fell or anything, and then flew back up in the tree and waited for me to walk by before it went up and picked up the dead dove on the ground there. But thought that was very, very interesting. Just the cycle of life and nature there, where there's the prey and then there's the hunter, and the old hawk's got to eat, and he did. Had a good meal with that dove. And then I got a couple more photos here, and I'll read the caption. The photos of a robin redbreast enjoying a backyard bird bath at Greg's Santa Fe house on an April 2022 afternoon, and it's a little robin. I mean, a regular sized robin, and really bright colors on its robin redbreast, and taking a dip in the bird bath, just splashing around. There's two photos there, and then beneath that photo, there's another photo of my Grandpa Hagen's birdhouse, the Colonel's birdhouse, the Purple Martin birdhouse, and I will read the caption and maybe just try to describe it. But I think the caption, it's a long caption, probably describes it well enough. But I decided I'd include this photo with the birdhouse here, but it could have been in the trees chapter. Note the trees in the background behind the poplars. They are mature, indicating the passage of time. This would coincide with the small pole of the birdhouse that it's mounted on. I believe Grandpa exchanged the tall wooden pole with a smaller metal pole so he could handle raising and lowering the birdhouse without assistance. He lowered and cleaned the birdhouse each year in the fall after the purple martins had migrated. He left it down until the spring to prevent the sparrows from claiming the nesting territory, and I labeled the photo circa 1997. And it's probably the post it's on here, the birdhouse. And it might be a different birdhouse even. It looks like the roof is white. Maybe it got painted over time, but it's probably only about a 6 to 8 foot tall pole, just a small metal, probably a metal pipe, I guess, in place of where the big probably it was a utility pole before, big wooden pole. So it's interesting, just a marker of time indicating that it has lapsed, and you just get older. You can't handle physically just to manage the tasks you once, didn't even give a thought to. So um, that's just interesting to me, and a good contrast from that first picture I showed. So that's the end of the chapter, and then, as usual, we'll close the chapter with a quote. And this one's a good one I came across when thought it very apt, putting the exclamation point on the chapter. Quote, "Everyone likes birds. What wild creature is more accessible to our eyes and ears, as close to us and everyone in the world, as universal as a bird?" End quote. And that's David Attenborough, nature historian. You probably have heard him narrating lots of stuff on PBS. I think that's his namesake show, Nature, because he's a nature historian. I think he narrates a lot of those shows, or he did narrate. I don't know if he's still with us or not. But anyway, another little aside to close out the chapter. I'll just talk about a little bit. And as far as purple martins, I don't know how many people are even familiar with purple martins. It's interesting. I was doing some research on them just out of my own curiosity, and see if I could attract them to my house here. I think it's difficult to attract them. I think there's kind of like a society out there that I think that monitors them and kind of documents what's going on and where they are, and gives advice on how to bring them into your area. But I think they're very, I guess they're very set in their ways of where they go and what they do, and it's kind of a chore to even get them into a new area. And when I moved up to South Dakota for 2 years, my last 2 years of my career with the Federal Highway Administration, I was in living in Fort Pierre, worked in Pierre, South Dakota, just across the river. But working with Federal Highway, our partners at the South Dakota Department of Transportation, I was over at their building quite a bit, and it was right near the Capitol. And they had a birdhouse. They had a purple martin birdhouse at the South Dakota DOT building. And I remember thinking how cool that was. And I think I got some photos. And if I can find those photos, I will include them in the video podcast, just insert them in. And I guess I should have mentioned that when I was reading the chapter, that I'll put those photos into the video podcast for those watching and not just listening. You'll be able to see those photos. And the purple martins have a pretty good song they sing. I can't imitate it here. I wish I could. That'd be cool if I could. But I think you could look it up. You can just Google it online too. I think you could probably play a typical song from the purple martin. But they're just beautiful. The males are really, they're almost black, but they have that purple sheen, that iridescent purple to them. And hopefully you get a chance to see them in real life. Go out and look for them if you're a birder. And I'm not a big bird guy. I don't have a big bird list that I put together and officially check things off and go out of my way to look for birds and stuff like that. And that's a pretty big deal. I think there's a lot of people I worked with throughout my career, working in the environmental side of the Department of Transportation and Federal Highway. There's a lot of people that really like birds and had official bird lists. And I know one guy, he actually took a trip to Costa Rica to look for birds and mark off his life list on birds that he spotted. And that's cool. I mean, that's something. I guess I have a lot of hobbies already. I figured be tough to squeeze that in with all the other things I like to do. But I guess if things were different, maybe I would do that too. But not now. I'm podcasting now, so that's my big hobby. My biggest and best priority right now, podcasting. So anyway, that's the end of the chapter. So people that are just in it for the Colonel and the Kid podcast, and the chapter reading, there you go. You can bail out now. So anyway, on to the next subject. Of course, verbal abuse and or the alternate topic heading, abusive language. And this week I came across something just, I don't know, it was bugging me because I had some jalapeno peppers out in the yard and it froze while we were hunting. I didn't think it was supposed to freeze, but I mean, really, it's kind of foolish to think that we're here in the first week of November and we've only had one frost. But my jalapeno pepper plant, which is right up against the house, close to the patio, and I thought if anything would survive, that would survive it, and it didn't. But so the topic and the word of the week for the verbal abuse section is pepper. And I just, it bugs me that we have pepper, which when I say the word pepper, I think people think salt and pepper, um, spices you add to your food. And don't get me started on people that just add salt and pepper to their food before they even taste anything. That seems ridiculous, but I've seen that all my life, and I've always thought that's kind of insulting to the people that are cooking food, that you just put salt and pepper on it before you even taste the food. So anyway, that could be another abusive language thing where salt and pepper are, maybe it's just abuse. It's not even abusive language. It's just abuse of food. So, anyway, but so I looked up like pepper, and I think that defaults basically to peppercorns that are grown on vines, and then you grind them and put them as spices and flavorings to foods. And they originated, I think, in the Middle East and have been around long, thousands of years. People have used them and they're for trading and value. But then we also have like bell peppers and jalapeno peppers and when I was doing some of this research on it, and yes, I actually just did some research for once on this topic, and that it reminded me of pepper. It's like the little baseball game that we could play with. You get 3 or 4 people, and you have a person with a bat, and you have 3 or 4 people lined up, and they throw the ball to the guy, and he kind of bunts it or hits it back to the group, and then they kind of field it and flip it in there. It's just a quick reaction game that you can do to just kill some time while you're um, waiting for some batter to get out of the batting cage or whatever, and just help your reflexes and stuff. It's kind of fun, and I haven't played it in a long time. That's. And I remember I used to see it, MLB, Major League Baseball fields. They would say no pepper, kind of on the side rails and stuff. So they didn't want people playing pepper on the Major League field because I think it kind of could tear up the field and could be dangerous. Who knows? I don't know. And then also another term for pepper is like you get peppered with questions, and like you're a politician and you're in front of the reporters and they're peppering you with questions, like or you're get peppered like a shotgun would pepper a bird, and you shoot a bird out of the air and it's peppered with shot. So it's got kind of a diverse use of definitions, but I just like the use of the term of peppers, like bell peppers and jalapeno peppers and banana peppers, stuff like that, with the actual peppercorns, which is black pepper for salted pepper. That just seems like there's totally unrelated. They have nothing to do with each other than that I guess you can dry a bell pepper or jalapeno peppers or red peppers or chili peppers. You can dry them and then grind them and they become flakes, similar to the peppercorns, which they're not even the same kind of plant, because the peppercorns that produce black pepper are from vines, according to my research. And then the bell peppers, jalapeno peppers, and chili peppers, they're just like a regular plant, almost like a tomato plant, but they produce peppers. So, uh, so that's my my attack on language this week, and what I considered a verbal abuse and abusive language in the pepper world. So, but speaking of pepper and baseball pepper, let's move to the baseball update. because we had one of the probably, I don't know. It's not the greatest game to me because greatest World Series game to me because I'm a Minnesota Twins fan, and Game 7 of the 91 World Series, it went 10 innings, and Jack Morris pitched a shutout. He pitched all 10 innings, and they won in the bottom of the 10th inning against the Atlanta Braves on a sacrifice fly. But 2025 World Series was pretty good. I mean, during the whole thing, they had an 18 inning game, and then the Game 7 went to extra innings, and the Toronto Blue Jays versus the Dodgers. And in Toronto, the Dodgers were able to pull it out. Big comeback. They got down early, 3-1, and fought back, able to tie it up in the, I think it was the top of the 9th with a home run by Miguel Rojas. And then Will Smith, not the rapper Will Smith, just he's a catcher for the Dodgers. He had a go-ahead home run in the top of the 10th, and the Dodgers were able to hold on. And the pitcher from Game 6, which was a must-win, I can't remember his name, Japanese pitcher, Yamamoto, I think, if that's right. He ended up getting the win, I guess, in that game because he came in and pitched the bottom of the 10th and got the Blue Jays out and was the MVP of the World Series because he had won 2 games. Well, he won 3 games, I guess, because he ended up getting the win. I was thinking he was getting the save, but it was actually the win in that Game 7. So pretty fantastic World Series. And I did hear some numbers that were amazed me. I was listening to my Tony Kornheiser podcast this morning, and they were saying that, or maybe it was Monday when the ratings came out, because that game was Saturday night, and they had like 24 million people saw that World Series Game 7, which is pretty good. I think that's as far as baseball numbers go, I think that's pretty large amount of viewing compared to past. And then, but you compare it, I think they brought up the fact that the NBA Finals, which had a Game 7 last spring, 2025, they had like 17 million viewers. But I'm not even sure if that's worldwide or if that's just the United States, whatever it is. Probably worldwide. But Japan has they have a very devoted fan base to baseball. And the Dodgers had 3 Japanese players that were very prominent on the team this year. I talked about Shohei Ohtani. He actually started the game, and he's the one that gave up the 3-run homer early. And so I'm guessing the Japanese fans viewing the game probably influenced a lot of those numbers. But anyway, maybe baseball's back. Who knows? It sure is. It sure is slow compared to watching football, even college football. And I think when I was watching that baseball game, I watched on multi view on my TV. So I think I was watching 3 college games, and then in the one corner there was a baseball going on, and then you can flip, can direct which sound or which broadcast you're getting the sound from. So that was what I was doing for the most part, watching college football and baseball at the same time. But I don't know. I enjoyed it, actually. It was a pleasant surprise. I hadn't watched much baseball all year, but I watched that whole game. So anyway, then I heard was the same Tony Kornheiser podcast show. They said, yep, pitchers and catchers report in 106 days. So a little over 3 months, they'll be back getting ready for baseball season. So it's a long season, a lot of games. You think about that, 162 regular season games, and you got the NFL games. They only play Each team only plays 17 games, so just one, it's like around 10% of what the games. So it's just, I think it really reflects on how important each game in the NFL is. They have 17 games for the whole year before you're in the playoffs. Hopefully, if you do make the playoffs. But anyway, let's just get into the NFL. I mean, that's the big monster that's out there in sports. Just dominates everything right now. And we just had the trade deadline just occurred yesterday, so all the trades are done. And we'll do the week 9 recap, then I'll get my picks for week 10. So I had a big setback this last week. Only went 8-6 on the week, 14 games, 8 wins, 6 losses. Brought me to 90-44 on the year, 67%, and I was creeping towards 70% accuracy, but now going backwards. So to recalibrate and try to get better. Vikings won. I didn't pick them, of course. Pretty big upset over the lines. I think they were a 9-point underdog. And then the Packers I think they were like a 14-point favorite, and they lost to the Panthers at home. So it was a week of upsets. It seemed like, and the Colts got beat by the Steelers. Who else did I lose? I picked the Chiefs. Chiefs were actually underdogs, but the Bills beat them. It's close. And then, of course, Cowboys lost. And I kind of predicted that a little bit. I didn't think they'd be that bad. They are just not a good team. It's sad a little bit to me because I think the league is better when the Cowboys are good because you have somebody to root against. They have such a huge fan base. Same with the Steelers. Steelers have a huge fan base, so when they're bad, it's kind of tough. They're a mediocre team this year. I think they'll make the playoffs, but I don't think they'll do anything. I think their defense is way overrated and old now too. So anyway, let's just go on to week 10. We'll talk about these games, and I don't have a good feeling about this week's picks, but I will share them, and I'm not going to make excuses. There's no time for excuses. We're in week 10 of the NFL. This is professional football, people. So I say, don't bet on them. It's professional. This is a business, not a sport. So whatever you think that is, rethink it. It's about making money. It's not about competition. This is about how do we generate revenue and get eyes on the TV? How do we sell jerseys, hats, everything, anything you want? It's about money. So anyway, that said, let's start the week. Thursday night game tomorrow night. It's already Wednesday. It's just hard to believe. But Raiders at Broncos, Thursday night football. Raiders are not a good team. They have a new coach this year, Pete Carroll, coming back to the NFL to try to, just rebuild the team. So they got a little plan. This first year of their probably a 3-year, 4-year plan to try to get good and compete. But Broncos are pretty tough. And again, Sean Payton coaching them. I'm not saying he's a bad coach. He's just an evil person. Don't like him. I wish he'd be banned from football and just go away and disappear from public society because evil people shouldn't be spotlighted in the public. And if you want to know why I call him evil, just go ahead and listen to the last podcast where talked about his drug abuse, which he denies, but he's a known liar because he denied that he was part of the Bounty Gate when he was coaching for the New Orleans Saints when they won the Super Bowl and beat the Vikings and had bounties to actually injure people. And I will never let this go until he completely apologizes, acknowledges that he lied about it. And it's classic. The classic thing about his lying about bounties is that there was a guy, the player from the Saints at the time, or during this time, I think he's still alive. Steve Gleason. He had Lou Gehrig's disease, um, ALS. Can't remember what that stands for. Something lateral sclerosis. Where anyway, it just disables your. I think the link between your nerves and your muscles, so you basically become paralyzed. You can't move. But there was a documentary going on, and he was in the locker room at one point, and the documentary film captured some of the discussion about the bounties on injuring people. And so it's hard to deny the fact that you were recorded talking about bounties on players and then how much money you would get for actually knocking somebody out of a game and injuring them. $5,000 to $10,000 that the coaches were offering. Ridiculous. So anyway, I have no respect for Sean Payton. I'm attacking him once again, and I guess if he can apologize and prove that he didn't have anything to do with the drugs or the bounty, I guess I will accept that, and I'll take back everything I said. But he's a known liar. I mean, it's pretty obvious to me that he has no credibility in defending anything he says. So I wish the NFL had some semblance of respect and would not allow this guy to be part of their league. But at the same time, I understand, because this is about money. It's not about reputation or anything else. The bottom line is money. And if you attract money to the game and to the scenario, then you're useful to the NFL. That being said, again, sorry to go off on this Sean Payton thing again, but I'll pick his team and the Broncos, unfortunately. Thursday night game, I'll watch. But next game is in Germany. This is be Sunday morning early game. I think it comes on 8:30. Is it 8:30? My time, Mountain Time, I think. Or is it 7:30? I think it's 7:30 Mountain Time, because that's 9:30 Eastern. But this is Falcons at Colts in Germany. And is there a way that I could care less about this game? I don't think so. I'm not getting up to watch it. Definitely not. I'm picking the Colts. Don't care. But you can never tell. It's hard to know how teams and players will react to travel over to whatever it is, multiple time zones, playing at whatever it is, 9:30 in the morning Eastern time. Got to get up whatever time you got to get up to get prepared. I mean, that's kickoff. So I mean, you're talking warm-ups and breakfast and riding the bus to the state, whatever. I mean, you got to get up at 5:30 in the morning to get over there. No, that doesn't sound like fun to me. Anyway, Giants at Bears. Going Bears. Don't care. Hopefully the Bears lose, but picking Bears. Bills at Dolphins. Going Bills. I think Dolphins are just playing out this rest of the season, and I think the players will be trying not to get hurt. So I don't think they're going to see best effort out of Dolphins for the rest of the year. Ravens at Vikings. This could be one of the best games of the week. I'm not picking the Vikings. I'm off the Vikings. It's going to be head over the heart rest of the year for me. Ravens are so desperate. It's like a playoff game rest of the year for them, because they're like 2-5 on the season, something like that, or 2-7, because they had a bye and this is the 10th week. Or they're 3-7. Yeah, they're 3-6, I guess. Now that we got that straightened out, because the Vikings, this will be the 10th game, and the Vikings are 4-4, and they had already had their bye, and the Ravens have already had their bye. So Vikings at home, I would not bet any money on this. I think the Ravens are favored by 4 points on the road. And I think there's just enough. Lamar Jackson is just enough of a wild card to make it so difficult for any defense. And I think the Ravens defense has gotten healthy. So they got some of their star money, the money makers on their defense are back. And I think that'll make a difference in the defense. So there's the new slogan. The difference is the defense. We'll see. Browns at Jets. I'm picking Browns because their defense is pretty tough. But I think the Jets were in a bye last week. And, the Browns are in a bye last week too. But the Browns offense is a rookie quarterback. I just have no confidence in the Browns with a rookie going there. Patriots at Buccaneers. Buccaneers had a bye. Patriots had to play the Falcons in a tough game. Barely hung on for that game. Buccaneers off that bye down in Tampa. I'm going to pick the Buccaneers. I think they can just pull it out somehow, even without Mike Evans out. The broken clavicle, aka collarbone. So we'll see how that goes for them and me. Baker Mayfield coming off a rested week. We'll see. I like them. I think they're probably favored by a couple points. But I pick straight up. These games are just picking winners. I'm not going against spreads, whatever it is. I'm just trying to pick winners. I'm trying to get to 70% wins. That's the goal. So I'm going Buccaneers. Saints at Panthers. It's so hard to figure out what's going on with the NFL at times like this. And Saints are starting a new rookie quarterback. Panthers have a quarterback that's a second-year guy that's back healthy. Panthers went into Lambeau Field and beat Green Bay last week. They were 14-point underdogs, yet they were able to beat Green Bay. So what does that say about Green Bay? Or does it say something about the Panthers? I don't know. Maybe both. So I'm picking Panthers, but I have no confidence that any prediction on this would be worthwhile. And I think we can guarantee that the fans watching this game are going to be the losers, because I don't think this game is going to be worth anything. And I won't be watching it. I guess maybe if I have the red zone on, maybe I'll see some highlights, quote unquote highlights. I'm making finger quotes on highlights on that for those not watching. Jaguars at Texans. Here, this is the AFC matchup similar to the NFC matchup of Saints at Panthers. Jaguars at Texans. And I don't want to pick either team. I would say, can I just pass? But I don't think I'm allowed to do that in my own rules that I've established for myself. Jaguars at Texans. I'm picking Texans because they're at home. But if CJ Stroud doesn't play, I may change this game if I can, if you'll allow me on this podcast. If CJ Stroud doesn't play, I'm going to flip and go to the Jags. But for now, you've heard me say Texans, but you may have to call me out on this when we go through the review next week's podcast. Cardinals at Seahawks. Seahawks. Rams at 49ers. Going Rams. Lions at Washington. Going Lions. Steelers at Chargers. Here's a game that this is a Sunday night game, so I'll be watching it. But I really don't like either of these teams. For some reason, I'm just repelled by them. I'm picking the Chargers, but I have no confidence that they will show up. They're just mediocre teams. They have coaches that are, to me, unlikable. And I don't know. I guess I'm going to watch, but NFL has a grip on me. It's got a hold over me that I really would like to break. So we'll see. See how that goes. Picking Chargers. Could flip a coin, probably be just as good a determination as using my analytics on this. And finally, the Monday night game, Eagles at Packers. I'm picking Eagles because the Eagles are coming off a bye, and although the Packers are going to be desperate for a win after their the the dump they took in their own bed last week. So no confidence in this pick. But let me comment on this too, because NFL, I hate you. ESPN, I hate you. YouTube TV, I hate you. I have all this stuff that you give me just total grief on. I couldn't watch most of the game because YouTube TV is in dispute with Disney and ESPN. And I also have the ESPN app, but apparently the ESPN app wasn't working United States wide. So I couldn't even watch the game, Monday Night Game, on my ESPN app. I finally was able to figure out that it was just on regular TV. So I have an antenna on my house. So I brought in a small TV into the living room, hooked that up to the antenna, and was able to watch the second half of the game. I listened to my Sirius XM radio for the broadcast on the first part of the game, first half of the game, and was just trying to work through the ESPN app and restarted my modem, did all this stuff to try to see if I could get the cache cleared and all this stuff they recommended to try to get this going. And I Googled, was there a problem with ESPN app? I don't know if it's still working. It wasn't working yesterday. And I would like to know if I'm going to get some money back from YouTube TV, since they're not carrying the Disney channels because of dispute, and from ESPN and Disney because they're supposedly saying they're providing a service, but the service they're providing is not working for me. So through their own fault, I am officially requesting through this podcast at least 2 months free from YouTube TV and from Disney ESPN app. That's my request. I think that's fair, because you've taken away from me something I'll never get back. I'll never be able to watch that game live again. And I pay for that service and you did not provide. So there's got to be some reciprocity with this. And if you want to give me all my money back that I paid you over the years, and we will just part ways and never do business again, that'd be fine too. That'd be great, because it'd help me on my way to getting rid of watching NFL football. So there's my offer for you. I'll wait for your response. You can contact me through email at g_mann_jr@yahoo.com. And if you want to negotiate a little bit, I don't think I can go the other way, but maybe we can talk about, want me to do some sponsorships or talk about it on my podcast and say how much you've apologized and you're giving me, free service, and how accommodating you are to customer complaints and everything like that. I would listen to those things. So look forward to it. ESPN/Disney Company/ABC, and then YouTube TV. I don't know. I guess you guys are just as greedy as anybody else, and welcome to the business world. You're in the NFL greed standpoint now, where every penny that you can grab is on the table and going straight into your pocket. So good for you, businessman. Google. Anyway, so let's wrap up the NFL update with the buys for this week. So the bye week beneficiaries: Bengals, Cowboys, Chiefs, Titans. And I think, like I mentioned last week, it's got to be just awesome to get a bye week at this point in the season for these teams. I feel sorry for those teams that had early buys, when, like right now, just this midpoint, it's got to be just such a relief mentally just to take a step back and catch your breath. So anyway, good for them. Look forward to week 10 and not even looking ahead to week 11 yet, but getting there. All right. So, last podcast, I think I talked about my my other books, and starting with the other books, it was the Charlie LeBeau mystery series books. And let me hold that up again. Do some marketing. So we have This is the first book in the series, the Charlie LeBeau mystery series, and particularly again, again with the covers, I actually hung up the poster now, moved some stuff that I had over there to the wall over here, which you can't see, but I like the contrast of, let's see if I hold it back there, line that up, how yellow that poster is. I think I talked about that being out in the sun so long, and I'm pretty proud of my cover. It's very stark contrast, and I use this one as the model, the first model for the Siston, South Dakota, the Redmen of Siston High School mascot, and I use the red, black, and white because that was their school colors. I always liked their colors and the Redmen. And I know that they have gone through some protests, some of the students, because of they have a like an Indian chief as their emblem of their school, and they're called Red Men. And I think most people have just dismissed that. I mean, it's to me, it's an honor to be, you know, that symbol of your strength, and to be a mascot, to be called upon and use that designation as a representative of your team. I think that's a very honorable. So I I I know that controversy was going on a few years back, and I think, it affected a lot of teams, and I think I've complained about that, and I've demanded that teams change back their names, like the Washington Redskins, Cleveland Indians. I think we just like throw them away and put them in the dustbin of history, and I think it's just a lost cause and kind of an embarrassment that people would even take time to protest that stuff. But I know, like the University of North Dakota Sioux, that was their moniker for, I don't know, 100 years. Who know? I don't know how long it was, but then they made them change it because the Sioux, they didn't they didn't like that designation yet. Like the University of Illinois Illini, they're okay with it. Florida State Seminoles, though they embrace that stuff, but University of North Dakota changed their name. And there's a lot of irony here too, because the Sioux, Sioux, which is a French word that's what the French explorers designated these people that they quote unquote discovered living there. But the Sioux, they don't even go by that name anymore. They're Lakota or Dakota or Nakota. They use their own language for their own identification purposes, and it's just become it's become this nebulous idea of what people force themselves to be offended by on these things. And I know that University of North Dakota, they used to have that a Sioux. They had like an Indian chief with a headdress and stuff, and kind of a nice, creative, artistic emblem. And they just throw it all away like nothing. And it's kind of pathetic to me to think about. I don't. I guess we've really got down a rabbit hole on the side, because talking about the colors, the red, white, and black of Siston Redmond High School, which I always admired. And I should admire them because they were a competitor of ours in the Northeast Conference when I played high school sports. And we actually had the Britain Braves, which never budged off there. There was never a protest about that. They had like an Indian theme, Indian headdress emblem too, and they're Braves. And I don't know. Anyway, I do like this cover. I still stand by this cover. I'm not going to change. You're not going to protest me into changing it. But one of the things I wanted to mention was, um, I'll hold it up again here. These are the antlers that are modeled by that poster in the background and the book cover. So I made anyway. I thought it was cool to make these posters of the book covers of the books I've written. I guess that's my ego. I was like movie posters, and now I have book posters. But I wanted to bring this up because this was the modeled skull I used for this skull in the in that picture. But this is, you can see the nose piece broke off. It's from here. It's all missing. And it had the full nose here because this was also hanging in my office when I worked for Federal Highway in Santa Fe. And I guess they were painting our office one day and they knocked it off the wall and it fell and it broke the nose piece off and it just shattered. It was like glass. And part of it was because it's this whole skull and these antlers sat out in the sun. This was harvested on Grady's ranch, my brother Grady, up in South Dakota. I don't know when it was, how many years ago, 2008. But it sat out, this whole head sat out in the sun and weathered and got kind of oxidized. And then I brought it home. I was going to clean it up because it's got a lot of points. I brought it here to Santa Fe. And it's actually a 7x8. It's got these weird points on its brow tines here. So it's like a 15-point buck, 7x8. But I was in the process of cleaning it up. I was getting off some of the old dried up fur and stuff off there. And I had it I have bars on my windows in the back. So I had it kind of placed in the bars in the windows. And I think someone came into my yard and was trying to look in my back window. And you can see this tape here. I think they pulled on the antler and it broke off and it fell. It broke this whole tine off. And so I have tape on it now. It's just being held by tape. I tried to glue it with super glue, but it's kind of just failed. And now it's got that little coating, so you can't really re-glue it. So maybe I need to go in there and sand it, or maybe drill it out and put a screw so that it can stay on there without, I just have to be taped all the time. But anyway, I'm talking about this a lot for some reason because it's interesting to me. But you can see, I actually spray painted the skull because you can see where it broke off and it broke you can see some of the faded, kind of yellowish cream colored, the original color of this faded skull from being out in the sun. And I spray painted it a flat white to make it look more real. I don't know. I guess that is a real color, but I made it look more real white, like it was bleached by the sun, which is not real. The irony of making things look real when you've actually made it not real. Anyway, it's a pretty cool set of antlers, actually. I like it. For Long Hollow. So anyway, I failed to mention that last time, so I thought, well, maybe I'll bring up the book again and talk about it and do some marketing and show these antlers again, since I failed to talk about the tumultuous trip that these antlers have taken. They broke off and they fell after that tine broke, that it fell in the backyard. That's the only reason I really noticed it. It was like, well, I wonder what happened. It's hard for me to believe that you could break these tines just without putting a lot of force on them. It could have had a flaw in it. I'm not saying it's that some criminals were trying to look and scope out my house, but somehow I believe that. So anyway, that's Long Hollow again. Long Hollow's a quick description of that. It's Charlie LeBeau series. It's a BIA policeman based on living up in northeast South Dakota, the South Dakota Siston-Wahpeton Indian Reservation, which is it doesn't even really have official boundaries anymore. It's the Siston-Wahpeton tribe. And actually, it's different than a lot of reservations where they have actual boundaries and stuff. This was an old, I think it just was dissolved because they had lost a lot of their tribal lands in the 30s and 40s. So then doesn't have an official boundary. It's got the old boundary. It's really cool. Maybe I'll talk about that sometime, or you can look at some of my books and kind of understand how that tribal boundary was, where it was one of the old Indian chiefs, I guess, stood down, I guess, near Watertown, South Dakota, and kind of put his arms up kind of in a V shape. And this is our land from here to here. And that was kind of carved out by the U.S. government at one point. So you look at some of the section lines in all the survey and the mapping in that area, and they're all kind of skewed and kind of out of proportion with normal just square sections in the Midwest where you have everything by 1 mile squares. It kind of makes it a little more interesting in that area. But if you get some time, go ahead and check that out and look at some of those maps. You'll see the original boundary of that reservation. So anyway, this is the book, and there's a picture of me on the back. And that's me. I was doing some grouse hunting down here in the northern New Mexico mountains. I think I actually got a grouse that day. You can see my whole big uniform. It's actually a Minnesota Vikings hat I'm wearing there. So anyway, Charlie LeBeau mystery. Charlie LeBeau, Sergeant Charlie LeBeau. He's a BIA policeman, and that has to deal with living on the reservation. He is native. LeBeau is, I took that name because I thought it was good French name. It was adopted by a lot of Native Americans in South Dakota, different reservations. And I worked with some LeBeaus when I worked for BIA Branch of Roads. I always liked the name, liked the guys I worked with. They're really good guys. And I thought, I like that name. Use it as a character. Neither of their first names were Charlie, but I knew two guys that I think they were stepbrothers, and their last name was LeBeau. So I thought, I'm gonna borrow that. I really I guess in an homage to them that I use that name for my main character. So, that's it. That's all I'll talk about for that portion. My little marketing section again, and in the future podcasts, I have a poster for every book that I've written. So maybe that'll be the future marketing thing. I'll put the different poster up right there and then talk about that book, and then you can look it up. You can just go to Amazon, check out the title. You can probably Google me. I think it comes up through Google, Gregory L. Heitman, or Long Hollow, Charlie LeBeau mystery. See how those come up, and buy them on Kindle or buy paperbacks. I have paperbacks. I do so much work on screens that I don't really want to read off a screen anymore. I'd rather just have a book. And this book got damaged somehow in the shipping, so it's kind of got a little bend in the corner. So if you want to buy this book, I'll give you a good discount on it. $4 plus $2 shipping, postage, shipping and handling. $6 for this book. You can't beat that. But it's damaged. It's autographed and marked with my logo. So let me know. You can contact me at my email address. Google me. You should be able to find something to be able to get a hold of me. I think. I don't know. Or, yeah. Or you can go to my website. Here, it's on here too. www.thegman.com. And that has my, I think my email address is part of that website too. So if you want to do that. That's a lot of marketing for today. So let's go on. Let's go on to the next section. I can't remember what else I promised I would go over today. We're already over an hour. So I think maybe what I'll do is I'll go directly to the reading, and we'll hold off on the music update and license to podcast update. We'll hold off on those. But I had this piece of paper that I found. And this is a little, I guess, just like a journal entry I had. Then I printed it out from like 23 years ago. I think this is from 2002. And I found these. There was three little stories I had from my time when I was working for Federal Highway Administration, part of the Texas Division. And I lived in Pflugerville, Texas. I worked in Austin, Texas, down at the federal building in downtown Austin. And I rode the bus, an express bus from Pflugerville. It was probably like 15 miles down to downtown Austin every day. because the traffic was so bad. I just couldn't stand driving, and you had to pay for parking. So I just thought, I'm just going to take the bus, which was, it was okay. I mean, I had to get up so dang early. That was the hard part, to to get to that bus. And um but anyway, the the coincidence and why I wanted to read this and bring this into the podcast was, a couple weeks ago, Angela and I were taking an old mattress out to the dump, and I'm putting quotes around the dump because they don't have dumps anymore. They have transfer stations where they built this building, and this was the same way when I was in Pier, and because I got rid of an old mattress in Pier, and you take it to this transfer station. It's just a big covered building, and you just throw all your trash in there, and then they scoop it up into trucks and haul it to wherever they haul it now. Landfill, I guess. So you can't go to the landfill yourself. You have to have trucks that are specially designated to go there. So you have to go to the transfer station. And so we need to get rid of this mattress. So you have to go to the transfer station outside Santa Fe. It's just a couple miles out of town. And so we were driving there, and at the intersection we turn and go to the transfer station, there was a baby carriage, like a baby stroller, just sitting there alongside the road. And I pointed it to Angela and said, "Look at that." I hope there's no baby in that baby carriage. It's like, oh my God, that'd be horrible. And just coincidentally, I don't know if it's irony. It's probably just coincidence, I think, in this case. But I had this little journal entry from my time in Texas from 23 years prior, and I labeled it driving lesson. And I'm just going to read it. So, in an ironic timing of events, just the other day, I heard this helpful information on the radio, or it might have been the TV. Anywho, I wish I could remember the source so I could give proper credit, but that is not going to happen. The person I heard talking was referring to the best driving tip his father had given him. And I quote, "Never run over a bag because there could be a baby in it," end quote. Truly sound advice. As fate would have it, I found myself in this exact precarious position. It was an innocent morning commute to HEB, the grocery store where I park and ride the bus to work. When HEB is, I think it's Howard E. Butts. That's the grocery store that's pervasive down in Texas. I think it's still there. Anyway, I rode the park and ride and into my work from Pflugerville down to downtown Austin. So I was traveling down our back road when Mr. Impatience himself pulls out in front of me. I, being the conservation-minded person, did not hit the brakes. I just coasted up to an unreasonably close distance to his car. This was a mistake. I had gotten too close. The car in front of me made a last-minute swerve to miss something in the road. My guess is that he was feeling so guilty about pulling out in front of me and his lack of discipline of actually stopping at the stop sign that he didn't see the bundle in the road. As it turned out, he swerved, avoiding the object in the road, but since I was following too closely, I couldn't react and ran squarely over the object in the road. You guessed it. That object was a bag. Oh my gosh, what had just happened? I thought about it a little more and convinced myself that although I'm pretty sure that the jolt of hitting the bag could easily have felt like running over a baby, I was pretty sure there was no baby in the bag. Flash to the commute home after work, I come across the bag that I had run over that morning. Apparently, it turns out it wasn't a bag, but a blanket. So, phew, I'm off the hook. But then I thought, wait a minute. Wouldn't it make more sense that a baby would be in a blanket? So until the next time that I was able to drive by the area and verify the actual contents of the blanket in a slow drive-by, I had that burden on my shoulder. As it turned out, it was just a blanket and only a blanket. That's the end of my journal entry for that time in Texas when I ran over a bag that turned out to be a blanket. And luckily there was no baby in the blanket or bag. So it was kind of a real coincidence that it was sparked by being included in the podcast, because I wanted to include the stroller alongside the road that I was hoping there was no baby just left abandoned in a stroller alongside the road as we were going to the transfer station to dump out a mattress. And it cost, I think it was like $15 to dump a mattress at the transfer station in Santa Fe, New Mexico. So if you ever have a mattress you want to get rid of, it costs about $15 to take it out there and get rid of it. So FYI. In when I was in Pierre, I actually had a coupon. They had like a spring cleanup coupon in their little the city newsletter in Fort Pierre, where you could just cut it out of the little paper and then you could take it over to the transfer station. And I think it was like $10 to $15 in Fort Pierre, in Pierre, to dump that mattress at the transfer station there too. So it's probably about a pretty universal fee for getting rid of a mattress at a transfer station. Thus, if you ever buy a mattress, you should have them deliver it and then actually pay for delivery and removal of your old mattress, because I think that's the best way to do it. Then you don't have to worry about hauling it out and carrying it and doing all this stuff, because mattresses are a big hassle. There you go. There's some free advice for you. But getting a new mattress actually will help a lot if your back is bothering you. So I think that's, it's a catch-22. You don't want to mess with the mattress, but you have to get a new mattress when it's time, if your back is bad. So, all right, where are we? That's it. I think I'm just going to wrap it up for today. Good podcast. I think I vented a lot, got a lot off my chest. A little therapy for me to vent again on Sean Payton and his evil and unethical coaching and being a bad human being all around. Let's go Vikings. I think we can, I'm not picking you, but you can still show me what you got by beating the Ravens in Minneapolis this weekend. That'd be great. So the baseball's done. We're on to college basketball starting up, which I don't care about. I'm not even going to bother looking at any basketball until probably at least after Christmas, maybe not even until February. I just don't have the time for it. Too many games again. And also, I'm waiting patiently for YouTube TV, ESPN, Disney to contact me about sponsoring my podcast and compensating me for my difficulties I've had with their services and their failure to meet their end of the bargain. So lots of stuff going on. Looking forward to getting things taken care of on the business side of stuff. So hopefully that's handled and we're back to normal with that. So in the meantime, I guess I don't know. I think I'm just going to wrap it up there. So I'm not going to say goodbye. Just say see you next time. And I put it upon you. You are the main character in your own life, so you got to take action. You are the action. You're the hero. So take action. Don't be passive. And I hesitate to say that, because that's the opposite. You hear passive, maybe you think, well, I'm going to be passive. No, be active. Take action. Glass half full. Be positive. And knock, and the door will be open to you. Seek, and you will find. Ask, and you shall be given. So that's it. We'll see you next time on the Colonel and the Kid podcast. Looking forward to it.